Okay, I had another question also about setup cost, I think, and I think it was about the Gandhi cloth example. Um, so here you have to rent machinery. You can think of it as a setup cost: 200 bucks for the shirt, 150 for the shorts, and 100 per week for the pants. We have 150 hours of labor, 160 square yards of cloth, and here's all this stuff, right? So, on a first attempt, you might do something like this, um, where you have your objective function. So if I look at this, I took the 12 in revenue and took out the 6 in variable cost, right? 12 minus this, so that's how I get the profit. Negative 200 bucks for renting the machine, for using it, 150 for this, 100 for that. And then what I did was I went in and I set up the solver, maximizing because that's profit numbers, changing all 6 of those cells, and I just have 2 constraints and click solve, click OK. We use up everything, but notice what it's saying is create 30 shirts and 10 pants, no shorts. But notice that it did not connect, it didn't take out the $200 and $100 or $300. So we'd actually be negative money if we did that, right? 300 is more than 250. So what we could try to do is try this again and add those binary constraints of, I called them U's this time. Pick binary, click OK, and solve again. And again, they're still 0 because there's nothing connecting them. So we got to do what we did before, which was if I use the shirt machine, then I can produce up to so many shirts. Otherwise, I can't produce any. So, use shirt machine. So if use my shirt machine, wrong button, equals 1, then I can produce up to ... That's it, something. If use shirt machine is 0, then do not produce shirts. So then we'll have something like shirts less than or equal to some number, use shirt machine. So the question is, what is this number? All right. In the other example, it was pretty straightforward, right? We said you can only make so many things. This time it's not. So let's go back and look at the problem description. So one way to think of this, actually it's probably easier to look at it on the spreadsheet. So one way to look at this is, if I produce shirts and only shirts, what is the most I would ever be able to produce? So in labor hours, I would take the 150 divided by 3, 50, right? It's the most, right? So let's do this. Let's go down here, maybe. Most shirts. And this is, let's do 150 divided by labor hours, 50. Or if we're looking at it from material, 40. All right, so labor, cloth. All right. So we could do the same thing. All we're trying to do is find a coefficient for that number, right? So most, what was the other one? Shorts, most pants, right? Was I smart enough to do that? Probably not. So let me do 4. And let's see if this will work. See if I anchored it right. So this is 75 is the most, 53.5, right? 25, 40, right? So we're looking for a coefficient for each one of those that is bigger than any of these numbers, so that it forces it to go to 0 if it has to. So, you know, you could pick any number that's bigger than any of these numbers. You can pick a separate number for shirts, a separate number for this, and a separate number for this. I find it easier to use one, what they call big M, the letter M. So I'm going to pick 100. So then this number here will be 100. So then when I move it over, it'll be shirt is less than or equal to -100. Use shirt machine. So let's try adding those constraints and see if that works. So that's going to be most shirts, most, well, let's call it max actually. Max shorts, max pants, and max shirts. So again, this will be a 1 here, and then over here be a -100. This will be a less than or equal to 0. So we'll have a very diagonal pattern going. 0, 1, -100, less than or equal to 0. And then these guys can scroll down. Right? So notice that these are violating constraints now. Right? So I'm going to go in and just zero this out. Go back into my solver, and I can change this one. You could delete it and start over if you wanted. This should work though. Click OK, and now I see I'm going 6 through 10, which is right. And now let's click let's go 0 here just for fun, and then solve. Click OK. So now what we see is we are only producing pants, right? Because it's the cheapest machine to rent. It also gives us the most profit, right? And we're using up all of our labor. So that's the thing that's binding us. The thing that we have left over is 60 yards of that. Right? So that's what that means for this one. Hopefully that helps clarify that question.